Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into something a little different.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Um, Instead of looking at ways to be more productive,
Right.
we're actually going to be looking at the opposite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the art and science of doing nothing.
That sounds very appealing, actually.
I know, right? Yeah. Especially in today's world where it feels like
Yeah.
we're constantly on the go.
Always doing something,
Yeah, exactly.
constantly stimulated.
So to help us explore this a little deeper, we've got some fascinating sources lined up.
Okay.
First up, we have excerpts from a book called Autopilot, The Art and Science of Doing Nothing.
Interesting.
It's written by Andrew Smart.
Okay.
We also have a summary of another book called Rest by Alex Pang.
Okay.
And to round things out, we'll be looking at a YouTube video from UCTV.
Okay.
It's called The Neuroscience of Creativity.
Sounds like a great lineup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in our brains when we're not, focused on getting things done.
Exactly. Yeah. Where our minds go when we're not trying to force them in a particular direction.
Right, because there's so much emphasis these days on, productivity and hustle.
Absolutely. It's like we're always supposed to be on.
Yeah, and Andrew Smart actually argues that this constant striving to be productive is actually harmful.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, he makes this really interesting analogy to airplane pilots.
Okay.
He says, just like a pilot needs to engage autopilot
Right.
to avoid fatigue,
hmm
our brains also need downtime.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, to function at their best.
Yeah, like if you're flying a plane, you can't be constantly making adjustments.
Exactly. You need to be able to let go and trust the system.
Right.
And I think it's the same with our brains.
Mm.
We can't be constantly in this state of alertness and focus.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Right. And Smart points out that all this busyness can actually have some pretty negative impacts.
Like what?
Well, he says it can really hinder our creativity. It can affect our self-awareness,
Yeah.
our ability to really understand ourselves.
Right.
And it can even make it harder to connect with other people.
Wow, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's like we're so caught up in our own heads that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Makes you wonder if all this busyness is actually counterproductive in the long run.
Exactly.
Like we're so focused on getting things done that we're missing out on the things that really matter.
Right. And it's not just our mental and emotional well-being that suffers.
Oh, no.
Smart even suggests that there could be a link between chronic busyness and cardiovascular problems.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's like we're running our engines on overdrive until they burn out.
That's a pretty powerful image.
Yeah, and it makes you think, are we really achieving anything by pushing ourselves so hard?
It's like that saying, what's the point of climbing the ladder if it's leaning against the wrong wall?
Exactly. And the thing is, a 2-week vacation won't fix it.
Yeah, that's just a Band-Aid solution.
Right. And that's actually a key takeaway from the summary of Alex Pang's book, Rest.
Okay, what does he say?
Pang emphasizes that rest needs to be integrated into our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about taking a break once in a while.
Yeah, it needs to be a regular part of our routine.
Exactly, like a daily ritual almost.
Makes sense.
But Smart actually takes this idea a step further.
Oh, how so?
He describes something called attention deficit trait.
Attention deficit trait.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, so basically it's this idea that our brains are becoming so used to constant stimulation
Mm-hmm.
that we're actually losing the ability to focus deeply.
Wow, so it's like our attention spans are shrinking.
Exactly. And he points to our modern work environments as part of the problem.
Yeah, think about how many times you check your phone or your email during the day.
Right. It's like we're addicted to distraction.
It's true. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Me too. It's almost like a reflex.
Yeah, it's hard to resist.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Research has shown that even when we're seemingly doing nothing, our brains are still incredibly active.
Oh, really? I always thought our brains kind of shut down when we relax.
Yeah, that's what I used to think too. But it turns out that's not the case at all.
So what's going on in our brains when we're just chilling out?
Well, Smart talks about this amazing discovery called the resting state network.
The resting state network?
Yeah, or what some call the default mode network.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so it turns out that specific areas of our brain actually become more active.
More active.
Yeah, when we're not focused on any particular task.
Wow, that's counterintuitive.
I know, right?
So it's like our brains are working harder when we're doing nothing.
Exactly. And this actually contradicts the traditional view of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That idea that it's only active when it's responding to external stimuli.
Right, like a reflex.
Exactly. But neuroscientist Marcus Raschel discovered that the brain actually uses more energy
Huh.
during these periods of rest,
Wow. So it's almost like the brain has a life of its own.
right? It's like there's this whole inner world that we're not even aware of when we're busy.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And Smart points out that certain activities seem to activate this resting state network.
Like what?
Well, he mentions things like lying in the grass,
Mm-hmm.
closing your eyes,
Oh,
staring out the window.
interesting.
You know, those times when you're just kind of zoning out?
Right, just letting your mind wander.
Exactly.
So maybe daydreaming isn't such a bad thing after all.
Right. It might actually be essential for our brain health and creativity.
That's a pretty radical idea.
I know it definitely challenges our assumptions about productivity.
It really does makes you wonder if we've got it all backwards.
Yeah, maybe instead of trying to constantly be on,
Right.
we should be making more time for those moments of quiet contemplation.
Yeah, those moments where we can just let our minds wander and see where they take us.
Exactly.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Me too. And now I want to shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about what happens when we give our brains the freedom to be creative.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, and we have this really cool YouTube video to help us explore this.
Awesome.
So it's called The Neuroscience of Creativity, and it features a neuroscientist named Dr. Indre Viskontas. And she's done some really fascinating research on musical improvisation.
Oh, wow. Using music to study creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is that they used fMRI technology.
Oh, wow. So they could actually see what was happening in the brain.
Yeah, in real time, it's amazing. And what they discovered is that
Yeah.
when musicians are improvising,
Mm-hmm.
there's a decrease in activity in a specific part of the brain.
Which part?
It's called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
And this area is associated with things like self-monitoring and judgment.
Oh, interesting. So it's like the inner critic goes quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? Because when you're improvising,
Yeah.
you don't want to be overthinking things.
Right. You just want to let the ideas flow.
Exactly.
Right.
And at the same time, that part of the brain is quieting down. Another area becomes more active.
Which one?
It's called the medial prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
And this area is linked to self-expression and personal memories.
So it's like the brain is tapping into a deeper well of creativity.
Exactly. And Dr. Viskontas believes that this pattern of brain activity is similar to what happens
Yeah.
when we enter a flow state.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, that feeling of being completely absorbed in an activity.
Right, where time seems to disappear.
Exactly. And ideas just flow effortlessly.
Yeah, like you're in the zone.
Exactly. And Smart actually suggests that this kind of creative flow
Mm-hmm.
is more likely to happen when we're not constantly bombarded with stimuli.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because when we're overwhelmed,
Right.
our brains are stuck reacting to what neuroscientist Scott Makod calls the challenge of the moment.
So we're not able to make those creative connections.
Exactly. And Smart makes a really fascinating point.
Okay, what's that?
He believes that our brains actually need time to exploit randomness.
Exploit randomness.
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive.
It does.
But he argues that that's where the real magic happens.
I wonder what he means by that.
Well, he connects it back to ancient Eastern traditions of meditation,
Oh, okay.
which have long recognized the importance of stillness and mental silence
Right.
for cultivating creativity and insight.
So maybe those monks were onto something.
Right. Maybe we've lost touch with that wisdom in our modern world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely something to think about.
Absolutely. And, you know, in addition to Smart's ideas,
Mm-hmm.
we also have Alex Payne's concept of deep play to consider.
Oh, right, from that book summary.
Exactly.
And what is deep play exactly?
So Pang describes it as engaging in activities that are inherently rewarding,
okay.
activities that hold personal meaning and significance.
So it's not just about vegging out in front of the TV.
Right. It's about finding activities that really engage us on a deeper level.
Got it.
And he gives this great example of Winston Churchill
Okay.
and his passion for painting.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so for Churchill,
Mm-hmm.
painting wasn't just a way to relax.
Right.
It was a way to engage his mind in a completely different way,
Interesting.
to recharge and to sharpen his skills.
So it was like active rest.
Exactly. And Pang suggests that deep play activities like this
Mm-hmm.
can actually enhance our work performance.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about taking a break.
Right. It's about taking a break that actually makes us more productive in the long run.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it kind of relates back to Smart's argument for idleness.
Oh, so?
Well, both deep play and idleness offer a way to engage cognitively
Mm-hmm.
without the pressures of work.
So it's like cross-training for the brain.
Exactly.
I like that.
So it seems like we've been sold this false dichotomy between work and rest,
Yeah.
when in reality they might be two sides of the same coin.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it definitely challenges our conventional wisdom.
It does.
And it makes me wonder if we're doing ourselves a disservice by trying to separate these two things.
Yeah, maybe we need to find a way to integrate them more seamlessly into our lives.
Exactly.
So that work and rest can actually complement each other.
Right, and support our overall well-being.
It's all about finding that balance.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder if we've lost touch with something, something essential.
Right.
And Smart actually points out that this aversion to idleness, it's a relatively recent phenomenon in human history.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he takes us all the way back to ancient China,
Oh, okay.
to the philosophy of Confucianism.
Confucianism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, Confucianism actually idealized leisure and effortlessness.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? Like a society where growing long fingernails was a sign of status.
Really?
Yeah, because it meant that you didn't have to work with your hands.
Wow, that's so different from our mentality today.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like the complete opposite of our hustle culture.
Yeah, a total contrast.
Yeah, and Smart traces this shift in Western culture to the rise of the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. So, work became mechanized and standardized.
Right.
And the focus shifted to efficiency and productivity.
Yeah, it's like we became cogs in a giant machine.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you have Frederick Taylor and his scientific management principles.
Right. All about optimizing workflows.
Exactly.
And maximizing output.
Yeah, it's all about squeezing every last drop of productivity.
Out of the workers.
Yeah.
Out of the workers.
And it's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we created all these time-saving technologies.
Right.
But instead of having more free time, we just ended up working more.
It's like a never-ending treadmill.
Exactly. And Smart even points out that there's been this explosion of time management books and seminars in recent decades.
Yeah.
And it's like, if these strategies are supposed to make us more efficient, why are we working longer hours than ever before?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's like a paradox.
Yeah. And Smart suggests that, the more efficient we become,
the more we're expected to do.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Right. It just feeds our fear of idleness.
And all this busyness, it's taking its toll.
Yeah, it really is.
Smart highlights how as our working hours increase, our mental well-being and physical health decline.
It's true. We're more stressed.
Yeah.
We're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And we're more disconnected from ourselves and those we love.
It's a recipe for burnout.
Yeah. It's simply not sustainable.
We need to reclaim our idleness, We need to create space for those moments of quiet contemplation.
Absolutely.
That allow our brains to truly recharge.
Smart even goes so far as to compare our current work ethic to how we view slavery today.
Wow.
He says it's a system that's built on a flawed understanding of human nature.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It's provocative, but it makes you think.
Yeah, it does.
If we're enslaving ourselves to this idea of constant productivity.
Right. What if we're sacrificing our health, our well-being, our creativity, all at the altar of busyness? It's a sobering thought.
It is, but it also makes the case for idleness even more compelling.
I agree. It really highlights the need to redefine our relationship with work and rest.
Absolutely. Instead of seeing them as opposing forces.
Right.
We need to embrace them as complementary aspects of a balanced life.
I love that balance is key.
Yeah, it's all about finding that sweet spot.
And Smart's exploration of idleness really gives us a new lens, through which to view our lives and our priorities.
It does. It makes you want to step off that treadmill of busyness.
Yeah.
And just rediscover the joys of simply being.
Right.
To wander aimlessly, to daydream.
Mm-hmm.
To let your mind wander down those unexpected paths.
Yeah, who knows what creative breakthroughs might be waiting for us in those moments of quiet contemplation.
Exactly.
And, in addition to Smart's compelling arguments, we also have Alex Pang's concept of deep play to consider.
Oh, right.
Remember, Pang argues that rest isn't just about doing nothing.
It's about engaging in activities that are both challenging and intrinsically rewarding.
He gives the example of Winston Churchill and his passion for painting.
Right.
Like for Churchill, painting wasn't just a way to relax. It was a way to engage his mind in a completely different way.
Exactly. To sharpen his decision-making skills.
Right. And his strategic thinking.
Yeah. And Pang suggests that these deep play activities can actually enhance our work performance.
It's like cross-training for the brain.
Exactly.
I love that analogy.
So it's not just about taking breaks.
Right.
It's about taking breaks that actively engage our minds and our creativity.
I'm starting to see a theme here.
Yeah, it's all about finding those activities that we're passionate about, activities that bring us joy and a sense of fulfillment.
And those activities might look different for everyone.
Absolutely.
For some, it might be painting or playing music.
Right.
For others, it might be gardening or hiking or, spending time with loved ones.
The key is to find what truly nourishes you.
Yeah.
And make time for it in your life.
And to give yourself permission to enjoy those moments,
Mm-hmm.
to let go of the guilt.
Yeah.
And the pressure to be productive.
It's time to reclaim our right to idleness.
Absolutely.
To embrace the art of doing nothing.
And to discover the surprising science behind it.
Our brains are wired for idleness.
It's not a vice.
Right.
It's a necessity.
And the next time you feel that urge to check your email or scroll through social media, just remember that there's a whole world of possibilities waiting for you.
Right.
In those moments of quiet contemplation.
And those moments might just be the key to unlocking your next creative breakthrough.
Now let's revisit the YouTube video on the neuroscience of creativity. Dr. Indre Viscontis' research on musical improvisation.
Yeah.
It offers a really fascinating glimpse into what happens in the brain when we enter that elusive flow state.
Right.
So using fMRI technology, Viscontis observed that during improvisation, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, that area of the brain associated with self-monitoring and judgment, it actually decreases in activity.
Oh, interesting.
It's as if the inner critic takes a back seat,
Yeah.
allowing for a more free-flowing, spontaneous expression of ideas.
Because we're not overthinking it.
Exactly.
We're just letting the creativity flow.
And at the same time, the medial prefrontal cortex, which is linked to self-expression and autobiographical memory, becomes more active.
So it's like the brain is tapping into a deeper well of creativity.
Exactly, drawing on personal experiences and emotions to fuel that improvisational process.
That's fascinating.
And Viscontis suggests that this pattern of brain activity is similar to what happens when we enter a flow state.
Right, that feeling of being completely absorbed in an activity.
Yeah, where time seems to melt away.
Exactly.
And we're effortlessly creating.
It's that magical state where we're not second-guessing ourselves.
Right, we're just in the zone.
It's amazing that we can access this state through activities like musical improvisation.
It's a reminder that creativity isn't just about talent or skill.
Right.
It's also about cultivating the right mindset.
Yeah.
About creating the conditions that allow our brains to enter that flow state.
And one of those conditions, as we've been exploring, is idleness.
Right. By allowing our minds to wander, to disconnect from the constant demands of the external world, we create the space for those creative sparks to ignite.
It's like giving our brains permission to play.
Exactly, to explore, to make those unexpected connections that lead to new ideas and insights.
It's so important to remember that our brains need time to play.
Just like we do.
And sometimes the most productive thing we can do is to simply do nothing.
That's a powerful thought.
It is, and it leads me to a question for our listeners. If idleness is so vital for creativity and well-being, how can you incorporate more of it into your life?
That's a great question.
What small changes can you make to your daily routine?
Yeah.
To create space for those moments of quiet contemplation.
Maybe it's taking a walk in nature without your phone.
Right.
Maybe it's simply sitting in silence for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And letting your thoughts settle.
Or maybe it's picking up that hobby you've always wanted to try, but never made time for.
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
And the rewards are well worth the effort.
So go ahead, embrace the art of doing nothing.
Your brain will thank you for it.
It's not about, becoming a couch potato.
Right.
Embracing idleness is about being intentional with your downtime.
Absolutely.
It's about creating space for activities that recharge your energy and spark your creativity.
Yeah. And that can look different for everyone.
Right. Pang actually calls these activities deep play.
Deep play.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a way to think about rest as active and engaging.
It really is it's not passive.
No.
It's not just, vegging out.
Exactly.
It's about really engaging with something.
Yeah.
So deep play can be anything from painting to playing music to gardening.
Right.
To simply having a deep conversation with a friend.
Yeah. Anything that, kind of lights you up.
Exactly.
And the key is to approach these activities with a sense of playfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of the pressure to achieve any specific outcome.
Yeah, just enjoy the process.
Exactly.
It's about letting your curiosity guide you,
Right.
allowing yourself to get lost in the moment, rediscovering that joy of exploration and discovery.
And you know what? I think that joy is contagious.
Oh, yeah.
When we allow ourselves to play, to embrace
Yeah.
our inner child,
Right.
we bring this new level of energy and enthusiasm to everything we do.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Our own joy and creativity can inspire those around us.
Makes you wonder,
Yeah.
if we could shift our cultural narrative from busyness to balance, from productivity to playfulness.
What kind of world could we create?
Right. What if instead of celebrating the hustle,
Yeah.
we celebrated the pause?
What if instead of valuing busyness, we valued presence?
What if instead of fearing idleness,
Yeah.
we embraced it as the source of our greatest creativity and inspiration?
Those are some really powerful questions.
They are.
They really challenge us to reimagine what it means to live a truly fulfilling life.
A life where work and rest are in harmony.
Yeah.
Where creativity and playfulness are woven into the fabric of our daily lives.
A life where we're not just surviving,
Right.
but thriving.
Exactly.
So let's make a pact
Okay.
to embrace the art of doing nothing, to give ourselves permission to pause, to play,
just simply be,
and to discover the surprising science and the profound joy
that await us
in those moments of quiet contemplation.
Absolutely.
Until next time, fellow deep divers,
Keep exploring.
keep questioning.
And keep embracing the power of idleness.